Hello and welcome to Lost Within Lost, the podcast where we are re-rewatching the 10 highest rated episodes of Lost. My name is Dan and my controversial Lost opinion is that The Constant, while an entertaining piece of television, is not even in the top 10 of Lost episodes. Put that in your pipe and smoke monster it.
Hello, my name is Chris, and Dan, I'm going to need to see that list. Yes, hello again, and welcome to Lost Within Lost, the podcast where we rewatch, recap, and review the 10 highest episodes of Lost. This week we are all about the number 7, because we will be discussing the 7th highest rated episode of Lost, and that is The Man Behind the Curtain. Plus, Dan and I will be nominating our own number 7 as part of our personal top 10 list. A list that, at least from Dan's perspective, does not include The Constant, but does include Expose. Will Dan continue to embarrass himself this week?
Almost certainly.
We will find out.
Yeah, so, and obviously, as always, if you want to see the top 10 list in full to see where we've been and where we are heading, check out IMDb, or it's pinned to the top of our socials. But first, we'll just check back in on things we might have covered last week. A bit of previously on Lost Within Lost.
Previously on Lost
Within
Lost.
That's right. Any corrections or follow-ups? There was a bit of homework. I enjoyed last week's conversation because we each got a bit of homework. I will say, Dan, that I read your Substack piece on Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Yes, it was heavy on Part 3 slander. But it all made sense, and I can't knock it. Very enjoyable. Will you be seeing the Back to the Future musical stage show? Have you registered for tickets?
No,
you won't.
No, I won't. Never.
Oh, no. You're not even the tiniest bit curious?
No, not at all. I don't really like musicals at the best of times, and I don't really need to see Back to the Future sullied with a musical version. Unless it's like Huey Lewis's greatest hits as the soundtrack, then I might be into it.
Surely that's the angle they're taking.
You would hope so.
Yeah, but we should plug your Substack because it's a great read. We'll post it on socials. But if people want to read more,
yeah, just go to newsletter.danlipke.com. That's DANLIEBKE. Always have to spell my name. Newsletter.danlipke.com.
Lots of great stuff in there. I also rewatched 12 Monkeys. So you'd mentioned it last week, and I think I saw it on it came out in 95. I reckon I saw it in 96 on a lazy day when the Foxtel was going, when you would still have to, you'd put on the movie channel, you're like, I just missed the first 10 minutes of this, but that's fine. I'll keep watching.
Or you go to the +2 channel of the +2 hours.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if they would have had those back then. But
wow.
I flicked over and I remember watching it and thinking that the ending was really, really surprising and a real sort of shock. But then watching it with fresh eyes, one, I forgot that it was a Terry Gilliam movie.
Yep.
The most Terry Gilliam movie that was ever a Terry Gilliam movie. It's all tilted camera angles, and like wheezy squeeze box accordions and things like that. Yeah, I think I've 3 out of 5 on the 12 Monkeys.
All right. I haven't watched it in ages either.
Oh, give it a look. I forget how kind of camp it was.
Right,
I think I remember it with a bit more sort of edge. It's a fun moment when Bruce Willis says, "All I see is dead people,"
really?
which works really well because he's arrived in the past. So he's like, everyone around me, dead people. So that was a really fun moment. And Chris Maloney playing a cop, pre-Law and Order, was a fun moment as well. You're pointing at the screen. Dan, I issued you some homework.
Yes. So I did watch an episode of Futurama, Roswell That Ends Well, which I tracked down and watched, and I enjoyed that. It was like some good gags in there.
Yeah.
Especially some good time travel gags. I particularly liked the kind of running gag in the first half of it where Fry, is that the name of the main character?
Yeah.
Fry is trying to save his grandfather from being killed, so to make sure he gets born, and each time he saves him, he just inadvertently puts him in more and more danger, which eventually culminates in him like being nuked to death.
That's right.
I quite enjoyed that. That was very amusing.
Yes, killing. He at one point, when he saves his life, he screams directly into his crotch, "Dad,
Yes.
are you okay?"
Yeah.
Yes, and then ultimately kills his own grandfather, which leaves only one solution for
Yeah.
him, and that is that he's inadvertently become his own grandfather.
Yes.
Which they do work into canon because Fry is such an idiot, just in a cartoonish kind of the same way Homer or whatever is an
Yeah.
idiot, but now it makes sense because genetically he's his own grandfather.
Yes.
I shot you some videos on some video games and stuff. I know you're not a big gamer, but I'm curious what you thought of Deathloop only because
I
of
love the premise of Deathloop. So
yeah.
Deathloop was of the two, the Deathloop. I kind of went actually onto Steam and said, "Oh, is this available?" And it's not available for the Mac, which is what I have. So I said, "Oh
Okay.
well, I won't be playing that then." But yeah, I enjoyed the premise of it. That did seem like a cool idea for a game. So yeah,
Yeah.
and I started to watch the solution to the mystery, and then it kind of all went over my head. It's just like, if I ever play it, then I'll solve it myself, I guess.
Yeah, good game. Something that you can sort of put on the list for another time. But I thought you'd be really keen on the artwork because it
Mm.
was all inspired by Saul Bass,
Right.
who
Okay.
he did the movie posters for Vertigo, North by Northwest, and
Yeah.
Psycho.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the style of game. And I've been listening to a lot of Hitchpod
Yes.
recently. So that I thought that a bit of fun there. So
Yeah. So
um,
Hitchpod is the podcast I do with my partner Kat. It's on the movies of Alfred Hitchcock. So if you like this and also like Hitchcock, if you're in part of the Lost Hitchcock Venn diagram, then that's something else you might check out.
yeah, I've been I just listened to the episode on Rope. So as
Mm.
someone who has not watched any Hitchcock films, and I know the point is to watch the movies. I'm just enjoying hearing about all these movies that I'll probably won't get around to. But you
Yeah.
kind of the way that both of you discuss the films is a really lovely way to kind of catch up on some cinema history.
Yes.
All right, so if that's all our homework done, shall we get into our review?
Yes. Yes. So what are we covering this time?
This is The Man Behind the Curtain, Season 3, Episode 20. I'll give you the IMDb overview. As Ben takes Locke to see Jacob and reveal the island's secrets, Ben's background on the island is exposed, as well as what happened to the Dharma Initiative.
Mm. Big important episode.
Mm.
All
Dan,
right.
do we have
We do.
your blog?
I tracked down my blog and I found my review of The Man Behind the Curtain, or my summary, which goes as follows. The Man Behind the Curtain. Enough is, once again, widely considered to be enough. Speaking for all loyal viewers, Locke demands an explanation of what, for freak's sake, is going on with this goddamn freaking island. He orders Ben to fill him in on the island history post-haste. Ben reacts in typical fashion. Namely, he introduces Locke to his invisible friend Jacob before shooting him, Locke, and leaving him for dead in a leftover mass grave from the time he, Ben, led the genocidal purge of the Dharma Initiative. Ha ha ha, take that, Locke, and take that, nosy loyal viewers. That's it.
Fantastic.
A very brief one this time around.
Yeah, very brave, very of on the island and not so much of the flashback,
Yes.
storyline that we would get. This episode was written by Elizabeth Sarnoff and Drew Goddard, so a
Mhm.
couple of names that probably won't see as often in this top 10 list. But I don't know. Do you follow a lot of the work of Drew Goddard?
I do. Drew Goddard did Cabin in the Woods, right?
Yes,
That's
yes.
kind of the main one that I love of his. I love Cabin in the Woods. That's one of
Yeah.
my favorite horror movies.
Yes,
Yeah.
fantastic take on the horror genre.
Mhm.
He also wrote The Martian. He's
Yes, love The Martian as well.
responsible for the Daredevil series. And did you ever see the movie Bad Times at the El Royale?
No, I missed that one,
Can
sadly.
I please make that your homework for this
Oh,
week?
okay. All right, I better take a note of that.
Yes, I saw that movie. I think this was like a bit of a sort of a COVID movie release. It's got Chris Hemsworth in it. It's a fascinating watch because you don't know if you're watching a movie or a television pilot
Okay.
or something else entirely. It's
Okay.
and
And
it
it's Drew
holds
Goddard.
Drew Goddard and it holds zero cultural relevance.
Mm.
Some people that I love reading their movie reviews, movie takes, etc., have just never even spoken about this film. I feel like it's a
Okay.
fever dream that I saw this movie and that maybe it wasn't real. And also Elizabeth Sarnoff wrote a lot on the TV series Deadwood.
Right.
Fantastic. And one of my favorite shows, Barry.
Ah, yes, I've seen Barry.
Quite a few episodes of Barry too. So quite the team on
Mm,
this episode. Directed by Bobby Roth. It aired in the US on the 9th of May 2007. Australia didn't have to wait too much longer.
couple of
July
months though.
12th. Yeah, a couple of months. July 12th, 2007. This has an IMDb rating of 9.2, which makes it 7th on the list. Now in the US, they pulled in 12.1 million viewers, so things were going okay. The old back in the day, before everything completely blew up and we now consume things in all manner of ways. Back in the day, the rule used to be about 10%. The Australian audience would be about 10% of the
Right.
US. That's how they would kind of try and track whether there was interest or not. And so in Australia, this episode did 1 million,
Mhm.
which is bad. So you kind of, but you're still sort of trending under that 10%. Now, there was a specific issue with this episode when it aired all the way on the 12th of July, 2007. Can I give you a quick little history lesson, Dan, about
Yeah.
what was going on at the time? Now, in Sydney and Brisbane, they did not air Lost at 8:30 p.m. Like, so everyone in Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth.
Was this a State of Origin match?
No, 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 no. What they did was they shelved Lost till 9:30 in Brisbane and Sydney, and they had on Mark Philippoussis' Age of Love.
Oh, Jesus, really?
This was a dating reality show featuring
The poo.
the poo, the scud, Mark Philippoussis, and for some reason they sort of did a flip flop. So in Melbourne, we got the Scuds, love adventures at 9:30 after Lost, and it was the other way around
Right.
in Sydney and Brisbane. So I've got to give you a little bit of an overview, right? So
Yeah.
it was an American show, reality show, so it wasn't something that we'd created here.
Thank God for that.
No, no, eventually we would get onto The Bachelor and those sorts
Yeah.
of things, but no, the Scud was 30 at the time. Now this is called Age of Love, and that was because they had 6 women in their 20s and 7 women in their 40s.
Oh,
And
God.
the Scud was stuck right in the middle. Their words, not mine. There were the kittens and there were the cougars. And
Jesus.
Mark would go on dates and eventually, dwindle down to
Mhm.
his.
He'd vote out a kitten and a cougar each week, presumably.
Yes, yeah, and politely keep cougars around. The top 3 would eventually fly to Melbourne to meet Mark's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Scud. And yeah, the top 3, because I know you want to know this: Amanda, 25,
Mhm.
Jennifer, 48, and Megan, 21.
Mhm.
Now, Megan was chosen to be in the final 3, which meant she had made the finale. In the finale, the girls and Mark had to take a flight to Australia to meet Mark's family. Megan was terrified of flying and refused to go on the plane, thereby eliminating herself from the competition.
She probably
So,
saw Lost.
yes, she's terrified of being stuck on a mysterious island. And then, of course, Amanda was the show's winner. But
Mhm.
I just love that one of the ladies was clearly not that in love that she couldn't get over her fear of flying. There's a promo on YouTube. I'll put it up on the socials. And just to put a button in it, the rights to the show in the UK were snapped up by E4. That's the secondary digital channel from Channel 4, and was shown as part of their no-brainers content block, along with other American reality TV shows like The Simple Life and Beauty and the Geek. So
Yeah.
basically, this is our stupid people block,
Yes.
and it went right in there. So I had to quickly Google what the hell is that when that showed up in my research.
And there's no explanation for why it was flipped in Sydney and Brisbane.
No idea. It only rated 850K, so Lost outperformed
Mm.
Age of Love, and I think it wasn't long for this world. Over on 10,
Yeah.
Pirate Masters. Do you
Oh,
remember this format?
I never saw Pirate Masters. The only thing I know about Pirate Masters, I think that's the one that Russell Hantz originally either played on or tried out for before he went on to play Survivor. That's the only fact I know about Pirate Masters.
He may have tried out for. I did a little bit of research. I didn't see much on Russell, but do you remember who it was hosted by?
No idea. I don't think I ever actually watched an episode.
No, I never saw it either. But another Aussie connection here. Cameron Daddo was
Oh,
the
bloody
the,
hell,
the
Dado.
fake the fake Jeff Probst. Definitely no Jonathan LaPaglia.
No,
Could
no, no,
cannot wear
definitely not.
a khaki shirt like LaPags does. So yes, we must have just been obsessed with Survivor, Lost, Pirates of the
Mm,
Caribbean. Just
yeah.
let's just do another reality show. It was absolutely bizarre, incredibly convoluted. There were captains and first officers. They never left the
Did
ship.
they walk the plank at any point?
I think that's how
You would
people were
imagine so.
eliminated. Yeah, but you could get a royal pardon, which was the equivalent of an idol. They went seeking treasure and everything. Very weird. There's a really great YouTube video on this from a channel called Idled Out. They do really great Survivor content,
Yeah.
and they did a special video on Pirate Masters. I'll be sure to share that. And to round out this very nautical thought themed year that was 2007 was over on Channel 9, beating everybody with 1.6 million was Sea Patrol. So
Sea
of course we've got
Patrol.
to,
God.
yeah, we're obsessed with the water. Now I was thinking oh, I'll
We are
make a
girt
joke.
by sea.
Yeah. I was going to make a joke about whether Sea Patrol was also going to have like a mysterious island, but then I went to Wikipedia and was like, this season began with the introduction of Bright Island, which was positioned as a type of mystery island
Oh,
and the death
Jesus,
of a
really?
marine biologist. So it's mystery islands and sea adventures
Yeah.
all round. That's what was happening on the telly back in July of 2007.
Wow. What a time.
Yeah, I know.
I have no memory of any of those other shows. All I have the memory of is Lost around that point.
Yeah, and then, look, and I'll be honest, I was probably hitting up my dealer at this point.
Hmm. Yeah,
Season 3, yeah, I think someone was
almost
maybe
certainly.
helping me find these episodes. I probably get a bit of other content at the same time, but whatever else was on. So yeah, I was probably watching it in short bursts. But this episode was another big let's just reveal like I said, the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Let-
This was a massive deal at the time. So I mean, Ben had shown up, what, the middle of season two, and
Mhm.
suddenly, wait a sec, we're finally, it's taken a season and a bit, but we're finally going to see his backstory. Like this was, I can remember the anticipation for this one. This was a big deal. And it was in the middle of this great run of season three episodes where,
Yeah,
you'd had
yeah.
the brig just before where we
Mhm.
discovered the link between Locke and Sawyer.
Yep.
So yeah, just a great run of episodes. And this one was just, oh shit, we're going to learn about Ben. I can't believe it. And then they threw in Jacob as well. Amazing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. The back half of this season, like it has season 3 has that very famous sluggish start.
Mm,
Those first sort of 6 or so episodes where really nothing is happening, and then the back half of this season is absolutely incredible.
yeah,
Like you
banger
said,
after banger.
yeah, 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 and with this being one of them, and the amount I don't know how many times Ben has said I was born on this island to people before this episode.
Yeah,
And you get that great opening with his birth in Portland,
yeah,
of all places. Like a nice little misdirection, right? Like where
yeah,
they're on the side of the road, but they're the foliage, and you think, oh, they're on an island,
yeah.
but most certainly not. Now, were you familiar with Ben's mother, the actress that played Ben's mother?
The actress that plays Ben's mother is, of course, Ben's wife in real life. Yes, that's a great twist.
Yeah, that's right. Carrie Preston, of sort of True Blood and Good Wife, that sort of universe. She has her own show now called Elsbeth, which is a spin-off of Good Wife.
I've seen ads for Elsbeth
Yeah, and I think that Michael Emerson will have a recurring role on that show.
as her father, presumably.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe he'll be her son. Yeah, so that is a lot of fun. And then I have to get this out of the way as well because this is a big Roger
Mm,
Linus episode as well.
yep. Roger
Um,
Workman.
Roger Workman. Again, like when you're watching this, is he familiar to you in any way? John Greaves,
No,
the actor?
no.
he has one of the most extensive and impressive IMDb
Really?
pages I've ever seen. He's before Lost, this incredible back catalog of like everything from like the Twilight Zone, X-Files. He's one of those guys that has had a single episode role on every show you can think of. He was a drug dealer in Beverly Hills 90210. He's an episode of Seinfeld.
Who was he in Seinfeld?
Remember where the episode where George has to buy the book because he took it into the bathroom,
Yes. Yep.
and Kramer and Newman are trying to start a rickshaw
Yes.
thing in with homeless people. He plays one of the homeless
Okay.
men. Yeah.
All right. That episode also has Jonathan Penner of Survivor in it. So
Really?
random piece of trivia. Yes.
Oh, jeez, it's all come full circle.
Yep.
A bit further on, are you a Napoleon Dynamite fan?
I've seen it.
Seen it?
It was fine. Well, not really my cup of tea. It's fine.
He's the Uncle Rico.
Okay.
He's in Men in Black, and then of course, everybody listening to this now knows exactly who Roger Linus is. They just cannot place him. He is Jennifer Coolidge's love interest in The White Lotus. So
Okay.
the season one,
Another
season two.
Survivor connection.
That's right. Yeah, we're on an island. We're surrounded by water. So I think his name's Greg in those two series. I won't sort of spoil anything about him for those that haven't seen White Lotus, but I mean, I feel like it's one of the most popular shows at the, very
Hmm.
hotly anticipated season 3 coming out. So that hit me like a ton of bricks when I saw Roger Linus. I went, holy
Yep.
shit, that's Greg from White Lotus. All right, let's talk a bit more about the episode. It's just Dharma, 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 right? It's the first time we
Yeah.
get we're in Dharma land.
Yeah. The first time we actually get to see them as they were at the time. So we've seen, we've seen the barracks, like we've seen the aftermath of it. We've seen where the others now live, how they live there. We've seen the hatch. So we've seen all kind of these remnants of Dharma, but this is the first
Yeah.
time we actually get to see it in action. And I was watching this episode with my partner, Kat, the other night
Mm-hmm.
as we prepared for this podcast. And she's only seen the show once. She watched it with
Okay.
me a few years back and watched it all the way through. So she's seen every episode, but hasn't watched it since and probably never will. But she was watching this and she kept on saying, "There's so much in this episode." She's like, how long does this episode go for? It's
Yeah,
got so much stuff in it. It's just jam packed with like so many plot points. It's just chock a block full.
Yeah. Everything that sticks in my head is the flashback to
Mm.
Ben's childhood. I love that there's more orientation films going up.
Yes.
So like, that's added to the added to the lore. The Purge itself took place in like 1992. So that's such a weird period of time that we hardly sort of spend any time in that sort of in between
Yeah.
period. But just seeing Ben, who's supposed to be grown up but still kind of young with a weird
Yeah.
sort of like a mullet sort of thing going on, is super weird. And there's a really good behind the scenes video on this episode as well, which I think is on one of the DVDs, and you can find it on YouTube. But it's got the two actors playing Ben and Annie, and some really good stuff around how they dressed up the classroom and everything, and then a really good interview with those two young actors. And they asked them, what was your favorite part of this episode? And the actress playing Annie turns to Ben and says, "When you turned evil." And she talks in detail about how his character would eventually walk through the compound, gassing everybody, and everybody had to play dead, which is really fun. So we'll also post that on the socials as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I get the other thing that I kind of enjoyed about this one was how the kind of way you could see how pieces were starting to come together for the finale. So so you had Sawyer telling Saeed about Juliet, and then that was kind of mirrored with Mikhail showing up to tell Ben about Naomi. It's just like these two opposing forces are just getting all their information. They're getting ready to go to war. And I also loved how Locke and Ben went to see Jacob, which is just such, in retrospect, great foreshadowing of the season 5 finale we watched last week. It's just, they're off again to see Jacob, except this time they're going to go see the real Jacob.
Yeah. So that's such an interesting scene, because Ben is clearly trying to pretend, like he's pretending to talk to someone that's not there. But we don't know if he himself has had conversations with Jacob there or not, right? Do we assume he has, but it's actually been the Man in Black
I
the whole
think
time.
I think that's the assumption. I think the Man in Black has been there, or at least guided him there to say, this is where you come to pretend, or this is, I don't know, whether he's actually had conversations. I don't know. I'm almost
Yeah.
certain it's not where Jacob, like it's not Jacob in
No,
that
that's right.
cabin.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And
Um, yeah.
because Locke is able to or hears something,
Mm,
that then drives Ben mad to be like,
yeah.
well, you hang on, maybe I've never heard him before
Mm,
myself, or he's never spoken to me. If he speaks to you, that means must mean that you're special. And then when Locke is lying in the pit and he says, "Help me,"
mm,
and Ben thinks that he's saying, he's literally asking for
yeah.
help. When he's like, "No, that's what the voice said to me. It said, help me."
Yeah.
But if that was the Man in Black, that's just like it still works because it's part of
Yes.
the manipulation
Yeah. Yeah.
to get them
Literally
on side.
assist me, not save me. It's
Yes.
assist
Yeah,
me in
yes.
my plan.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. It's an like it ends up being one of the most crucial scenes of
Mm, yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole show.
That's really, really clever in retrospect, that bit.
Yes, and I believe Locke is shot in the kidney area,
Mm, yes.
which
Yes.
helps given that he does not have or is in fact missing one from because of the guy whose dead body he was literally carrying around
Yeah.
a few hours earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that's fascinating, right? So to join the club, they're like, you need to hurry up and go and kill your dad, right? Like that's in the brig. So then he finally comes back. And then this episode is all about Ben eventually doing away with his own father.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is part of, I guess, the, daddy issues, right? Like huge part of this show is that everybody has that kind of like it's a huge thing for quite a lot of characters.
I mean, and these two are particularly intertwined as well. Like Ben and Locke. I mean, they're both their mother's name was both Emily. We learned in
Oh,
this
yeah.
episode. So
Yep.
these two are very much their own little dyad, to use a Star Warsism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They can't. They're intertwined and they can't really be separated.
No, and both, I mean, ultimately somewhat kind of sad and
Yeah.
pathetic kind of characters
Yep.
in the how they interact with what's possible, on this
Mm,
island.
yeah.
Something else that was really interesting about this episode is in when they are with back in Dharma World and the school kids are learning about volcanoes.
Mm,
We just read there's I think an article that had just come out recently where the writers had mentioned that the volcano was supposed to play a bigger role in I guess the ending of the
yeah, and you
show.
can kind of see how that works because like there's big earthquakes and everything at the in the
Yeah.
finale of the show, so it's pretty easy to imagine how a mega mega volcano eruption could have a similar practical effect for the finale. So I'm still not quite sure why they didn't go along with just that same idea. It's seems. In general, I think I found parts of like I really enjoyed it at the time. One of my favorite
Hmm.
episodes at the
Hmm.
time. So much lore dropped in this particular episode. All
Yeah.
the Jacob
Yep.
info, all the Ben backstory, everything. But in retrospect, I'm not sure I like this episode as much as I did at the time because I feel as if the writers I feel as if they hadn't quite fleshed out all the details of Dharma or Ben. So there's kind of all these loose ends that never lead
Mm.
anywhere or missteps. So you've got this Annie character who shows up, never appears again, never
Yep.
tied
Yep.
up. You got the volcano, as you mentioned. And the other one that kind of in retrospect doesn't make any sense is every other time we see Richard throughout any time period, he's always dressed immaculately, same haircut,
Yes.
same everything. For this episode, for some reason, he's scruffy and looks like he's another, whereas usually he's just perfectly clean cut. So like it's as if they thought, oh no, well he has to look like another because this is 30 years ago, and we know he doesn't age, but
Yeah.
also maybe his haircut changes. I don't know. It feels like they hadn't quite fully answered all these questions
Mm.
by the time
But
they had to write this episode.
it does it sort of seems like for large chunks of time the official uniform of the others or the Jacobs people or whoever they are is to dress in rags or
Mm,
something, right? Like you see eventually when we get to the temple
yeah.
and the others as we know them led by Ben would use that to their
The trick,
advantage,
yeah.
as a trick. But yeah, you're right. It is weird that Richard would sort of. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what he has to put when he goes back to Temple Land. He's supposed to be humble or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Um,
But every other time he's perfectly well groomed and
yeah,
attired.
yeah,
He's got the
yeah.
eyeshadow on. He's looking
Yep.
great.
Yeah. And he makes multiple trips off the island. So I assume he's like, right, okay, got to put a suit on,
Yeah.
go and visit John Locke.
Yeah.
No, okay, no, doesn't recognize me. Go back, put the rags back on. Although he never grows the beard out.
No,
No.
no. So I've got some mysteries here that I kept track of during this
Oh,
episode
please.
dumps quite a few mysteries, and I asked ChatGPT for some answers to see how well it understood Lost. You'll get some indication as to some of the confusion that arises from this episode. So I said, "Who
Okay.
is Annie in Lost?"
Oh.
And ChatGPT said, "Annie was a young girl living with the Dharma Initiative on the island." So far, so good.
Hmm.
Who went missing in the jungle? An event that deeply impacted and shaped Ben Linus's motivations. I just
No, I
like, I don't think that happened.
don't recall that.
So okay, half marks there for
Yeah.
ChatGPT. Who was in Jacob's cabin? Was there another
Oh.
mystery? And again, we're going to get half marks here. This time it gets it wrong first up and then fixes it later. It was initially portrayed that Jacob's former bodyguard or advisor was living in the cabin, but it was later revealed to be the man in black, the smoke monster, impersonating others to manipulate the survivors. All right, so the back half's fine.
Mm.
Why did Jacob say, "Help me," to Locke? Was another mystery. Jacob did not actually say, "Help me," to Locke. It was the man in black impersonating Jacob's form in order to manipulate and gain Locke's trust as part of his long con against Jacob. Perfect. 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Well done.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Yep. Understood. Well done. I love the idea of Jacob having security, which he kind of does, like he does in the end,
Yeah, he
right?
does. Yeah.
And that, but they're just not right, sort of by his side.
No,
You know,
no.
yeah.
What was the significance of the volcano? The volcano was a source of electromagnetic energy on the island that was harnessed by the Dharma Initiative, and its pockets of electromagnetic buildup were tied to unique properties and phenomena on the island. So that's not proven wrong. It's I don't know. Maybe
No,
the volcano is part of the electromagnetic stuff. Who knows?
I think I'm against Volcano. I kind of wish it was just never even brought up.
Yeah,
There you go. That's where I stand on Volcano.
yeah. I feel the same about Annie. Um,
Oh dear.
and the final one. Why was Richard dressed so scruffily when he first meets young Ben? When Richard Alpert first meets young Ben Linus, he is dressed scruffily because he had been living among the hostile others on the island for a long time, having not aged due to Jacob's gift of immortality. So that's kind of true, but didn't kind of miss my point. Anyway,
Yeah. Kind of. Well, it's ChatGPT is faring okay, but very easily led up the garden path.
yes, yes,
Very
as so
easily.
many viewers were.
If that's everything on the man behind the curtain, I've got some fun sort of historical media from around the time as well.
Yep.
Very, very Lost related. Earlier in this season, back in December 2006, Matthew Fox stepped up on stage to host an episode of Saturday Night Live. So
Okay.
Matthew Fox got to test out his comedy chops.
God.
If you've
I can't imagine Matthew Fox having great comedy chops.
and you know what? He doesn't. He's so only 2 weeks earlier, the aforementioned Kramer, Michael Richards,
Mhm.
gets on stage at the Laugh Factory
Yes.
and completely ruins his career forever and
Yep.
forevermore. So that's just happened. And now Matthew Fox is hosting SNL, and we're going to put this up on the socials so that everyone can watch his monologue. But I want you to see this, Dan. So we're gonna pause for a quick moment, and then we're gonna come back, and Dan will have seen
Okay.
some Matthew Fox action. So
Well,
do you want to talk? What have you just seen, Dan?
I've seen I've seen Matthew Fox tell some pretty mediocre gags and then be interrupted by somebody pretending to be Kramer who wanted to be on Lost, and that was the end of the monologue. It was very strange and not very good.
Yeah, they do this thing on SNL when someone who is got sort of less credible comedy chops, they give them a few minutes to try and tell a few jokes, and he awkwardly stumbles through a few. And then the trick is to just have one of the cast members
Yep.
interrupt and go, "I've got this from here on out." Except it's Bill Hader doing Michael Richards or doing a Kramer.
Mm.
Um, with the air of whatever that thing that happened
Yeah.
going on, and the whole thing is just makes you want to shrink into a hole into the
Even
ground.
18 years on, it's kind of awkward and uncomfortable to
Yeah,
see him coming out.
it's horrible. Now, that was the one and only time Matthew Fox hosted SNL, obviously. There's only one other sketch online from that episode. Everything else seems to be pretty well buried. And guess you'll never guess what it's about. It's just about Matthew Fox playing himself being stuck in an elevator while people come in and harass him about being on Lost. So
Right.
even then, they haven't given him any great character range. Or we'll share that one as well. But it's a skit with some of the funniest people on the planet: Fred Armisen, Amy Poehler, Maya Rudolph, Keenan Thompson, Andy Samberg, and not a single one of them can save this incredibly horrific
Poor
um,
Foxy.
sketch. Yeah, so look, his entire run on Lost, I think he plays the character so well because it does kind of eventually subvert the hero
Yeah.
sort of thing that he's there to do, and the intensity and everything. But look, not much, maybe not as much going on.
No, not yeah. He may not be the world's greatest comedian.
No, no.
Yes.
Now, just 2 weeks later, a young man by the name of Justin Timberlake would host SNL and gift the world Dick in a Box, and nothing would be the same forever after that. The world would change, the Lonely Island and Justin Timberlake. And so it's just this fascinating kind of moment where things suddenly like took off at a
Yeah.
whole new level, for that show and for that cast and all of those people. And I think they just had to get a bit of Matthew Fox out of the system. So that's what happening when season three was airing.
Well, I went back and listened to the official Lost podcast for
Oh,
the
fantastic.
Man Behind the Curtain. So I listened to the kind of the preview for the episode, so the one from the week before.
Right.
So I listened to the one just before, and I listened to the episode after, and they kind of cover both of them in both directions. So I've got some highlights from those two episodes. There were some very random questions which kind of inspired a little bit of madness from Damon and Carlton. So someone asked a question: why are there no monkeys on the island? There should be monkeys on the island.
It's a great point.
And Damon claimed that there was one monkey on the island, and his name was Jupe, and he was their backup plan if the show was ever cancelled. And the backup plan was that if the show was ever cancelled, they would zoom into a chair, like a big leather chair, and it would spin
Mhm.
around, and there would be Jupe, the monkey, in it. And Jupe would read from a leather book telling the answers to all the mysteries. And that would be how the show would end.
You could still do that.
Yeah,
That's a DVD extra right there, even once the show had
definitely.
wrapped up.
Yeah. This was the second week, so the one immediately after The Man Behind the Curtain. That was the week that they announced that they had agreed to end the show. So
Oh,
obviously
okay.
they had made that agreement earlier, which is why they were able to plan the back end of season three as well as they did. But
Yep,
that
yep.
hadn't been officially announced at that point. So
Right.
it was now officially announced that there would be only be three more seasons of the show. There would be 48 more episodes as it was planned at the time, 16
Hmm.
each in 4, 5, and 6. But Damon also claimed that a separate deal had been made for only 35 more podcasts that had been separately negotiated.
So I guess well, that's when we learn the fate of Jupe, is it the Jupe would no longer be needed.
Yes.
Incredibly gracious to get to be given the 3 seasons,
Mm.
to be given that number. Like, okay, here you go, you can have three. Like that's
Yep.
yeah, would give them so much more confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. They also because this episode we'd heard the name Jacob before. We'd never really been given much information
Mhm.
about this mysterious Jacob person. So this was kind of the first big dump of information about what Jacob might be. So there were a lot of questions coming in around Jacob. They answered a few ones. Basically, they were confirming things that he wasn't. So someone suggested that maybe Jacob was an alien who'd been
Oh.
trapped on Earth, and that's why he was saying, "Help me." He wanted to get off. The rationale behind that was because in the comic book that Walt was reading, there was an alien in that comic book who was
Ah,
trapped on
yes.
Earth, and so they
Yep.
thought, oh well, maybe that's a clue to what Jacob is.
Yep.
They said, no, Jacob's not an alien. And the other theory was that Jacob might be a character from Heroes, and they also said, no, that's not the case either.
A crossover.
Yes.
I don't think Heroes couldn't sustain enough.
No,
Like they could barely did like a third season out.
Heroes season one was great. Heroes season
Yes.
one was briefly because it was on at the same time as season three of Lost,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
briefly overtook Lost. I was just like, nah, Heroes has got it.
Mm.
Lost, you've lost it. And then Lost surged back in at the
Yeah.
back half of season three and just surged past Heroes again for me.
That would be a fascinating story. I'm sure it's been written how that show fell off so quickly and how they kind of because after being so well crafted in the first season.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. The first season was so good, and then it was. Well, at least in my memory, I've never gone back to watch it.
Yeah, well, there you go. We won't assign homework, but maybe one day when I'm extremely bored.
Yeah, and the final thing they discussed on the podcast,
Mm.
they got one more question from a fan who wanted to know when they were going to get to the backstory of the shark that was seen with the Dharma logo on it. And Damon and Carlton said that the name of the shark was Ezra James Sharkington. And they said that if you thought the episode where it was revealed where Jack got his tattoos was annoying, wait until you see the one where they reveal how Bai Ling gave the shark his Dharma tattoo. And at that point, they declared the podcast to jump the shark. So
Yes, very much so. Also, we'd already had, yes, of course, we've had that episode, which I think is unanimously probably not duking it out with expose would be unanimously be considered one of the
yeah,
the weakest
pretty
episode.
much. I think kind of in the greater mythos of Lost, it's the one where
Yeah.
they put that episode out. Everyone knew it was dreadful, and then they went to the studio execs and said, "We're just going to have to keep doing shit like this unless you give us an end date." And they gave them an end date.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So that's the man behind the curtain. Has it inspired any topics for a bit of a list within a list? Given this was a big Ben-centric episode.
Yeah, I think that's the clue to it, right? A good topic for this week is surely our favorite villains that we either love or sympathize with or just are tickled by. Because I love
Yeah.
Ben. Ben's one of my favorite characters on Lost,
He is,
despite
yeah.
being such a bastard.
Yeah, same, absolutely. Like, even if you don't sympathize, like, yeah, there's you may sympathizing with towards the end, you can't help but love you just get a kick out of him every time he lies, like blatantly lies.
Yeah.
So have you got how big's your list, Dan?
I've got half a dozen here that I can go through.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to just take it in turns.
Yeah, we can go one for one. I've got sort of half a dozen here and a few apologies, but I'll leave those to the end because
Yeah.
the more I thought about it, the more
There's
I kept
loads.
going. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
Okay, if you would, yeah, I'll go first. I'll go first because I've got a video game. So, and I know.
I'm not going to steal that one from you.
No. So the character of GLaDOS, she is an AI, an artificial intelligence robot life form in the Portal video games. Are you familiar with the
I've heard of
video
Portal,
games?
never played Portal.
Incredible.
Heard of it.
Yeah. Incredible. They're essentially puzzle games. The main character wakes up inside a cell, and then the way the game works is that you're given the ability to create little portals through these portal guns, which means you can solve these logic puzzles. Can you escape the room by creating portals in the right space? But while you're doing that, there's this robot artificial intelligence taunting you the whole time. From the beginning, she seems like she's helping you until you realize she's the reason why you've been put in the situation you have, and why this facility that is completely desolate is now being only watched over by this character. She's very sinister, very wry sense of humor, excellent villain that just has a lot of fun in taunting the player as they try and escape.
Yeah.
Really good.
Very good. All right. I will give you number one on my list, a little thief slash pretend terrorist named Hans Gruber from Die Hard. Absolutely glorious villain. Love
Yes.
everything about him. Dressed
Yeah.
in a suit, knows what he's doing, smartest man on the block, and he's just undone by bloody John McClane up in the
Yeah.
vents making a nuisance of himself.
That's fantastic. I might have to assign myself some homework because it's as much as everybody loves and argues about Die Hard, it's something I've probably only ever sat through maybe once and watched properly,
Oh,
and
you've
probably a
got
long time
watch
ago.
watch it for Hans, if nothing else. The great Alan Rickman.
Yes, yeah. I mean, even just Alan Rickman in general, right?
Yeah,
What a legend. I am counting up towards a number one, so
mine's just in random order.
well, no, okay. I'm going to go with from Parks and Recreation. She is Ron Swanson's second ex-wife, Tammy number two,
Yep.
as played by Megan Mullally. I don't think I have to say too much there. She's an incredible. She's definitely a villain. Always taking Ron away from us and corrupting him. And
Yes.
and those two together when they're on screen are absolutely amazing,
Yep.
like husband and wife duo in real life. And she is absolutely hilarious. So Tammy number two. Tammy number two
Mm.
is in my fifth spot.
Fantastic. I'm going to go. Well, if you're going with a woman, I'll also go with a woman. I'll go with. Have you seen the movie Gone Girl or read the book Gone Girl?
I have, yes. I've not read the book, have seen the film once, and I recently watched a documentary about the true crime case that I think inspired the
Mm.
book. Yeah.
Well, I'm going for Amy Dunn, the
Yeah.
titular girl who is gone in Gone Girl, who is just a
Yes.
magnificent villain. Spoilers for Gone Girl, I guess. I'm sorry if you haven't
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, she's wonderful. I love her. Yeah,
It's a heck of a plan, right?
it's a great plan.
Yeah.
No, I'm not sure it's a great plan, but
No.
it's a detailed plan, if nothing
Devious.
else.
Yes. Yeah, no, very detailed. I think yes, great appreciation for the level of planning
Yes.
yeah, that takes place. Something I often think back to, like, how to pull that off? And you definitely need a rewatch as well, because you only seen it through once
Mm,
without knowing what happens. To watch it through again,
yeah.
be really
The
interesting
book's a great read as well. I read the
okay
book before I saw the movie, and yeah, it's a cracker of a read.
to give it a shot. Third for me is, geez, I hope I don't get cancelled for this one. Going all the way back to a movie by the name of Blazing Saddles. It is
Oh yes.
Taggart, played by the incredible Slim Pickens.
Yep.
He's like, I certainly don't sympathize with his view on life and being a slave master, but Slim Pickens is amazing, and you just can't help but laugh at. That's the important part. You're laughing at
Yes.
these people.
Yes.
And a shout out to Harvey Korman as Hedley Lamar as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that's that. Yeah, I we watched that movie a zillion times as kids. It was one of the ones we had on. We had like a handful of movies just on videotape that we'd either taped off the TV or
yep.
whatever, and we just watched them over and over. That was one of them, and we loved every second of it.
Yeah, fantastic.
Even if it hasn't. Yeah. Anyway, we won't go into the politics of Blazing Saddles.
It's a whole kettle of fish, but I feel comfortable in sort of still cheerleading the existence of the movie. Let's just say
Yes.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, over to you, Dan.
All right. Well, I'll go for an old movie as well then for my next one. And tying back to what we were discussing earlier, Mr. Norman Bates of Psycho is a
Yes.
superb villain. Like somehow, well, and this is one of Hitchcock's great tricks, is that he can get you sympathizing with pretty much any villain if he puts his mind to it. And
Mm.
Norman Bates, you see him, he's this nervous, weird little guy. Spoiler, he stabs someone in the shower. And and then somehow you watch him and you want him to get away with this murder. You want him to destroy the body and
Hmm.
work out how to get away from the cops and all the other people who are coming to investigate him. It's fascinating how easily you get tricked into being on the side of this psychotic murderer. That's
It's
yeah,
fascinating.
great.
And like I said earlier, I haven't seen. Yeah, I still don't think I've seen the Hitchcock films. I know all about Psycho.
Everyone
I,
knows about Psycho.
yep. Know the twist and things like that, but I've never watched it through. I
Mm.
haven't watched. It was a Bates Motel, but the TV
Mhm.
series that they eventually made. I hadn't seen that either. So maybe I'll maybe again some more homework for
Yeah.
Chris this week. Maybe I'll try and watch Psycho.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, you won't regret it.
Yeah, great. Now I've got these last two are really weird, and I don't think you're going to follow me at all, but I've got to do it. From two of my all-time favorite things, I've gone with X the Eliminator from Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law. So
Oh,
I'm sorry,
God.
this podcast is divulged into Chris's favorite things as a teenage boy. um,
Was
you
that was that the one
familiar?
with Jason Alexander? No.
No,
No.
no. This is
No, that was
Harvey
Duckman.
Birdman. That was Duckman. Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, is a couple of guys basically were allowed to play around with a whole bunch of old Hanna-Barbera footage.
Oh,
So it
okay.
was inspired, similar to Space Ghost, if you
Yeah.
that have seen Space Ghost. The retired Harvey Birdman is now an attorney, and he represents a whole bunch of old Hanna-Barbera
Okay.
characters like Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, who are arrested for possession.
Yeah.
Fred Flintstone is accused of being a mafia boss because, he works in construction. McGilla Gorilla being freed by animal rights activists. It's
Yep.
an incredible watch. And X the Eliminator was his old arch villain from like the 60s, who finally returns to get his revenge and steal the crest from Birdman, because that's where all his power is. And Birdman is just busy in court trying to get somebody off. I don't know if it's Speed Racer or a speeding ticket, something like
Yeah.
that. And he's still obsessing over Birdman. Birdman has no idea he's even there. It's an incredible show. I will if I can find a way to, these episodes are like 12 minutes long.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try and make you watch it.
All right. I'll go for something a little less obscure, a little show that maybe you saw. Let's just be very, very obvious here. Let's just go Walter White, Breaking Bad.
Ah, yeah. See, I tossed and yeah, okay. Please.
Are you saying, is he the villain?
It's like, because he is. I found myself in this weird territory of like what do
Anti-hero?
we call the anti-hero and whatever.
Mm.
And I'm fully in camp. Walter White is a horrible person,
Yeah.
and to the point where I don't even know if I want to sympathize with him. That's
Yeah.
but obviously, incredible TV.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to go with Gus Fring. Gus
Yeah,
Fring.
that was the other one. I was like,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
weren't going to accept Walter White because he was
Yeah.
the protagonist, then I was just going to go, well, fine. Gus Fring is just as good.
Yes, but one of the great, speaking of twists and long cons and that I think still one of the greatest switcheroo or twist that's ever been pulled off in a TV show. One where they've, basically said, if you're paying attention, you can work this out. I don't think anybody in the world did at the time. And it's some of the best TV of all time, right?
It's a great show. A great show.
So my number one is from another animated series that you've never heard of. It's from a show called The Venture Brothers, The Monarch and his partner in crime, Dr. Girlfriend. The Venture Brothers is this incredible show. It's basically a Johnny Quest parody. So again, taking these old IP from like the 60s, but what if Johnny Quest had grown up, had kids of his own, had father issues, couldn't live up to his father's legacy. His two sons, the last thing they ever want to do is go on an adventure. And this show it's all about what happens after the adventure is over. So most episodes start with, we've solved the case of the mummy in the Sphinx and the lost treasure. This is now they need to run a yard sale and get rid of all this extra crap they've accumulated over the years. And but their arch villains are still very much at each. There's still that kind of dynamic. And again, what are they doing when they're not in the middle of a arching war? They're organizing henchmen. They've got to deal with HR. What sort of uniform should they be wearing? It's an incredible TV show. It lasted there's 7 seasons over 20 years because there's only 2 creators that have written and directed basically every single episode. So it's all loved. Everything is loved and cared for. Nothing has gone out on that show unless it's been sort of come from the mind of those 2 creators. So the things that happen in season 1 matter in season 7. It's absolutely incredible. So the main villain from that series, the Monarch, gets it for me as this podcast gets deeper and deeper into the weeds of boy nerdum.
Well, I'll give you a couple of honorable mentions here. Had Kylo Ren on there from the new Star Wars
Yes.
trilogy, and a little bit of Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. I love me some
Ah,
Littlefinger. There are lots of options for Game of Thrones, but ultimately
yeah.
I think Littlefinger was the most fun one for
Oh,
me anyway.
you've got heaps in Game of Thrones. Yeah, apologies to Gollum,
Mhm.
Loki, and Rowdy
Yep.
Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
For me. Dan, I'm surprised you didn't go with Mutiny on the Bounty. The dreaded, what's his name?
Bly,
Bly?
Commander Bly.
Commander Bly.
No, I blanked that from my mind. No, Bly's a hero.
There was a very good episode. Yes, a very good episode of your Hitchpod podcast where you reviewed what was it from 1930,
Can't
1940,
remember what the year
whatever,
was, but
Mutiny
whatever
on the
the year
Bounty.
was, Mutiny on the
Y-
Bounty was the best Oscar winner. So we watched it, and it was something, all right.
Yes, yeah, but you were very sympathetic to the man who
Love
suffered the
Bly.
mutiny. You were like, all these people are in the wrong. I enjoyed that quite a lot. That's our list within a list for this week. And we are back. Dan and I have just descended down into the hatch, flaming torches and all. We are here to meet our dear friend Fiona. Fiona, I hope we haven't interrupted you in the middle of a workout or anything. Um, down here in the hatch, let's take a seat in this conveniently built diner booth and have a chat about season 2. So, Fee, how are you? Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for having me. I've just finished season 2, guys, so I'm ready to discuss.
Excellent.
Excellent. All right. Well, there's so much territory to continue. Just a quick reminder that Fee, you've broken the 20-year oath. You've watched season 1, but now that you've watched season 2, these are genuinely fresh episodes of Lost that has taken you 20 years to get
Yes.
to get to. So after watching the first chunk of new Lost content being season 2, can we just get like an initial reaction? Thumbs up, thumbs down. How are you
I'm
feeling? Be
sideways.
honest. Yeah.
Here's the thing, guys. I don't know if anyone's aware of this. I don't know if anyone's talking about it. I don't know. Lost is a really good show.
Oh shit.
It is such a good show. There is so much happening, and I am so into it.
Wow, that is. I really thought we were on rocky footing in that after that first season rewatch. Yeah, Dan has just wiped the sweat from his brow.
I mean, like I've still got that little thing in the back of my head that's saying, shit, I bet this better have a payoff. But the fact that you
Right.
guys are doing a
Mm,
podcast makes me think there's got to be some kind of payoff, or such a no payoff that's what this whole podcast is about. I don't know, guys. But look, I think that's like I think I talked about last time. That's the big difference, is that now I'm watching it as somebody who everyone's like, I've watched this and it's great, versus because it's just one thing after another, isn't it?
Yes.
Golly.
yes.
Lots of stuff happens in season 2.
Yeah. Yep. I refreshed my memory quickly before this chat here because I wanted to, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's okay. Yep. So much happening. So we have chunked it down into sort of various themes and events, just so that we can all, make sense of it all, and we want to get your thoughts. But the first text I received from you when we bid goodbye after our season 1 chat was all in capital letters. There's someone down the hatch, which is great because I like it feels so obvious to us that of course, well, yeah, Desmond's down there, the person down there. That's what
I did not in a million years think there was someone down the hatch.
Yeah. So you've got Desmond, you've got Dharma logos everywhere. You've got a man putting numbers into the computer.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that whole sort of element of
the Dharma
show?
stuff rang a bell. So I must have seen like a full frontal fast forward big girl's blouse type skit. There must have been skits akimbo around that time that I was just
There were parodies galore.
I'm sure there
There are
were.
plenty of parodies.
I'm if there wasn't a parody about the other people on the island who weren't like the main 7 people, just like trying to live their lives on the island, I'm willing to do that skit now and try and get some rotation, because that's all I can think about.
Hold your horses on that idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
I'm covering all the parodies of this podcast. Yes.
Fantastic.
We have been, yeah.
I've no doubt in you fellas. Okay, so someone in the hat pushing a button. Wild. Like, and this dude has been doing it 24 hours a day by himself. Wild. What does it mean? What is happening? I'm watching, like, they're showing like the orientation video, and I'm trying to remember all that pop culture stuff that was happening behind me. I remember people were trying to work out like, what do the numbers mean something else, and how many people are on the island, and all that sort of stuff. So I'm there going, I really want to look this stuff up on the internet, but I'm absolutely not going to.
No.
I'm going to instead listen to your podcast. So that was a very cool twist. I did not expect there to be something really quite technologically advanced on the island at all. And as you said, like, such a well set up little the record player. Well, they kind of doubled down, didn't they? Because they kind of had the hatch looked really like fancy with the record player and the working out and the dabbing yourself. And then they kind of showed it the entry bit, which is a bit more musty. And I was like, are they playing with the timeline? Like, what's happening? I think I messaged you saying, have I been double losted? I think at that point.
You did. You said you were so excited that you said, never mind, I've been losted. Which I think that's a new entry into.
I think it is. I don't think it's used as a verb very often, but yeah,
no,
we'll adopt it.
And then not long after that, you said, I've been double losted, because Desmond is there's patience there, right? Like, we all just remember it as, oh look, and then Desmond was down there, and don't we love Desmond, and isn't he so interesting? But he's not really a big part of those first few episodes. He basically he runs.
Yeah. He says it's super duper important, and then he jogs on. But I spent the whole time thinking he looked like this is killing me, David Tennant.
Okay.
Ah, yes.
But it's not. But
It's
obviously. But I kept thinking, like, is it? He's Mobby his cousin. That's my guess at this stage.
Yeah, why not? Let's go with that. Until someone proves otherwise, it's his cousin.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh man, there's so much I want to talk about there, but
well, should we move on to another big aspect of season 2? The tailies, the Ana Lucia, Mr. Echo, etc. What did you think of the tailies?
I did love that initially they were called the others, and then they quickly became the tailies because the others are something else. I thought that was really quite cool. I loved the Echo, the Mr. Echo, the being the counterpoint, and especially once they join the original gang, the counterpoint to Locke. Because you've kind of got Locke being this, I don't think we've had Locke's full backstory. We still don't know why he was in the chair, but Locke was sort of this textbook wildlife guy and this textbook tough guy, and certainly knows a lot of stuff and has been amazing on the island for all those reasons. And then you get Echo, who's kind of the real fucking deal. Like, this guy has utilized those things to save his life. Like, and I think that was such an amazing juxtaposition. And before they met, I was desperate to see them in the same scenes, because I was like, oh my God, this is who Locke thinks he is and who Locke wishes he is. And this guy, this guy's just has lived it and will, is continuing to live it. Fascinating. I thought he was such a bad bitch. Loved him so much. And then, like, to scoot a little ahead, if I may, the fact that it then comes around to him being the ultimate man of faith. Like, we sort of ended season 1 with the. Sorry, I've jumped into your notes there, Chris.
No. Because as you raised the idea of these two, like him being introduced, that's what I thought you were going to go to first. Is that, one says he's a man of faith, versus Jack being a man of science, but then he's the real man of faith.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was so fascinating to me, like that big arc, because that is how we ended season 1. It was man versus faith. I think I may be wrong, but that might have even been an episode title. Like that was how big of a deal it was. And then now we've sort of got to this push the button or don't push the button thing, where the man of faith, it's gone completely, and then Echo has come around from being this essential this warlord, or child soldier, warlord, whatever, to being an absolute man of faith, and sort of really watching Locke get shaken was really interesting. Anna Lucia, loved. RIP to a good one. Disappointed that she was just a bit of another love interest. Like, we've got a lot of, what do they say, Mary Jane's in the freezer, you know what I mean? Is that the phrase, Chris?
I know Mary Jane.
Refrigerating.
In the fridge, yes.
Okay.
She's in the fridge. I've chucked her in the freezer. It's I don't really condone throwing women in the freezer. But she was really cool, and it was good to have another sort of bad bitch around, and another Sayid has all those skills. They rely very heavily on him, and it was kind of cool to have another person who's really about, like, needs to get things done. Thought she had a really cool backstory for sure. Like, she definitely
just
had
a different environment. Like, suddenly you get, because when you get Mr. Echo's backstory, or even just the idea of these new characters, and then you go, oh, we're going to get their flashbacks, and get Anna Lucia's backstory, and we're going to go to LA, and it's a different environment, and of course Mr. Echo completely different. Like, just the screen hasn't looked like that the entire time I've been watching the show. That's part of what I love about then going, here's some new characters, and then you go, oh, are we going to get it? When are we going to get it? When are we going to get the backstory?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Bernard and Rose meeting back up again.
Yes, I just felt so strongly that was going to happen. I think because, like, again, in the ether, I knew that they found these people from the back of the plane. So, and so, from the minute I rewatched Rose saying my husband is alive, I was like, cool, well, he is, and that's cool. And I was really pumped to see that. And I loved that, when they were dilly-dallying in the jungle, and then Bernard was like, can we just keep moving so I can actually see my wife? I was like, I'm with him. Like, he's been super patient. And then we got that interesting backstory as well. So more talk about the healing properties, healing properties of the island. So far, it's made someone walk, it's got rid of someone's cancer, and it's fixed someone's testicles. So bravo, island, I say. Bravo.
You did text me and asked if did the island fix son's fallopian tubes, or does modern medicine often misdiagnose female specific medical conditions? And I wanted to text back and say, no, it's
No, it was actually just the 4B movement again, guys. It was just another example of protecting men's masculinity at the absolute cost of women's lives. But sure, it was actually gin the whole time.
Joining the tailies was Goodwin. And last time we chatted, I don't think we talked much about Ethan either.
No, we didn't really. Yeah.
Were your senses up when Goodwin was, in the crew or part of the backstory or anything like that?
No. Listen, I just am a go with the flow girl. Like, Chris, you've known me a long time. We've watched a lot of movies and stuff together, and I'm not one of those ones who tries to work things out in advance. I'm like, they've written it that way. Just let it wash over me. So no, I was like in the moment, like, ooh, what's happening? But I loved it. The infiltrating others is such a cool thing. Like, the idea that you are just a bunch of strangers, and who says where these strangers have come from. Like, that's very cool. And the because, like, what I'm thinking is, if I was in this plane crash, I'd be more suspicious of more people, if anything, because people are awful. Like, even if you are on the plane together, like, we know people are awful and they do awful things to one another, and especially in stressful situations or when there's resource issues, like, that is when bad things happen. So yeah, I kind of was like, yeah, absolutely, be suspicious of everybody. I would be.
Well, the ultimate suspicion, Dan, is one of my favorite moments, is when Henry Gale
Gorgeous
joins joins the crew for a little while. Where did you have a feeling either way?
Yeah, and I nearly messaged you like, I don't believe him. Like every time they made it look like it probably was him, I was still like, I just still don't feel like it. I still feel like it's dodgy. Like I still feel like it's dodgy. So the satisfaction of when he was actually a bad guy or another, let's say, because apparently, according to the last episode, he's one of the good guys. But when he was an other, it was so deliciously satisfying. But no, I love that. Every time there was a scene with him, I actually really enjoyed it because I was like, there's a puzzle within the puzzle. And I think his acting was so good. I think like he was so believable, but then every now and then you'd get that little look of like, oh, he is playing us. Loved it, loved the who wanted to believe him versus who didn't want to believe him, I think was really cool as well. Like,
I was just going to raise that. Is this because you hate Locke so much that you're so satisfied that
I still hate Locke so much? Is this going to continue? Am I going to hate him the whole time?
It's fascinating. That's the one thing in all of your recapping that I think I find the most interesting. I don't know about you, Dan. The idea of not enjoying watching Locke on the island amongst all the other characters.
Yeah, I think I just think everybody has their own random favorites. It's very hard to predict who will like who before you go into it. Like there are certain characters, some of whom we haven't even met, that I think are some of the great characters on the show, and who other people are just indifferent to. And yeah, and there are other ones who people love, and I'm also they're fine. So we'll yeah.
I mean, you can get late into a season and be like, are we doing Jack again? Like, what do we need to know this time? And in this one, he gets divorced, and as Dan and I have joked, it's because she was having an affair with Phil Dunphy, and that works out well for her.
I'm happy for her.
Yeah, it works out really well. But you get into some real deep backstory when you're just hungry for other morsels of information. Obviously, yeah. So the huge stuff that happens towards the back end is then Michael being compromised. You've got Anna Lucia in the hatch. You've got Henry Gale in the hatch. Libby walks in. She's going to get blankets for a date. And then just more shooty.
So many guns, honestly. Like, I think that's been a big thing for me. I was like, so many fucking guns on one island. I get it. That we got the hatch, so we've got this whole new armory and this whole new thing of guns and ammo. But I'm like, oh, Americans, why so many guns? I love that Echo's just got a big old stick. Like, let's have more sticks. We're on an island, people. Yeah.
You texted me and said, so many guns in sweaty bum cracks.
That's true.
Everybody does the move down the back of the pants.
And they're swapping them from bum crack to bum crack. Like, I like how I just said that's so true to my own text. I was like, girl, preach. Okay, so Michael being compromised did not see coming in a billion years.
I don't think anybody did. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, great. And I think like we're now starting to see the Romeo and Juliet version of this actor. Like he is fucking bringing it. He is coming to town. He is using everything Baz Luhrmann taught him. He fucking crazy. And what I love with a twist that makes perfect sense too. Divine. Loved it. Like this, him being a bad guy, then they laid it out and it made sense. And I agree. Perfect. And then, yeah, was sad to see Anna Lucia go. I take back my thing in the first season about nobody dies. Like they're really popping people off now, which is great. I love it. Was sad to see her go though. Nobody wants to sleep with Sawyer as their last person. Like I think that's cruel and unusual punishment. Libby. So I'm still so confused about Libby because like, what are we going to get a resolution to her backstory? Don't answer, because like, was she a psych patient? And like, fine if true, but then now we've seen a flashback of her at the airport. So like for a moment I was like, is she some kind of group hallucination that Hurley's somehow managed to group hallucinate her? But now we've actually seen her have an interaction at the airport. So
and she gives Desmond the boat, the the one he uses for the around the world.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I don't even think I worked that out.
Yeah, they're in the because your finale Live Together Die Alone is
Yeah.
all about Desmond and how did he get to the
Oh,
island.
yeah. I watched it.
Yeah.
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 That was Libby?
She's wearing a wig, right? Obviously, because she's completely different hairstyle. And I think
Wow.
she mentions her husband and the
Husband.
divorce.
Yeah. No, he died.
Okay, yes.
The
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah. There's a lot to retain.
Yeah, no, I've got you. The
That's okay,
husband. So
yes.
she's like, my husband died. He wanted to take this boat. No, I watched it. I just never
Yep.
made that connection. That was Libby.
Yeah.
Thank God
But
for
then
this podcast. Insert name here. I don't know the name of this podcast that I'm currently on. Okay. Well, then I need more Libby. I need to know what's happening here.
And then, of course, he ends up in the hatch with Kelvin. Kelvin,
Mhm.
who taught Saeed how to do all of his.
Yes, I did get that
Yeah.
one. Yes.
All these little interconnected things that even in my first viewing, I just was too passive.
There's too many of them to keep track of.
There's so many people. And then each flashback, you meet more people. And yeah.
And they're all interconnected. Yeah, it's very, very difficult unless it's super obvious, like Sawyer swearing at a police station.
Yeah. Yeah, he really pulls focus, doesn't he, Sawyer? He really pulls focus. Okay, all right. Well, then I definitely need to know more about, but that was heartbreaking. That was really like Hurley. I just want to kiss him on his little cheek. Like, what a sweetheart. I was so happy when he refused to go with Michael, but then obviously he took that back. I was like, yeah, fuck shit up, Hurley. Don't do what the man wants you to do. But then he did do what the man wanted him to do.
Some quick hitters from this season. We have a baby now.
Yes.
Baby Erin.
Oh,
Yes.
every time they say it, I want to puncture my own eardrums. Erin.
Yep. We're in a fun phase now where is your brain happy to stop thinking about the fact that they're keeping a baby alive on a beach, and I'm more interested in the drama, and I could give less of a shit about how the logistics of all this sort of stuff now, right?
I still wander into logistics, and then I just hear your voice, Chris, saying, it's just TV land, like just let it go. It's just TV. Every time I see these women wearing early 2000s low-rise skinny jeans on a beach or even in a jungle, I'm like, absolutely not. I would throw myself off a cliff immediately. Like, there is no way. Low-rise skinny jeans, you couldn't wear them if the temperature was perfect, and we've got these girls wearing them. Like, it's just, I'm just going to go on for a second and then I'll let it go. It's just not possible. They would be wearing anything else like that. They would be finding scraps of tarp and wearing them as skirts. Low-rise skinny jeans. It's not happening. You can't bend over with those. You can't have proper vaginal hygiene with those. Like, it is not happening. Anyway, that's fine. I'm going to move on from that, but just know that's all I'm thinking about.
This is why we have you on, because when you're not on,
we have not once discussed vaginal hygiene on this.
No, this is the ultimate boy podcast, and generally is if it's just the two of us. So we're so glad to have you on.
we had a lot of dramatic close-ups of Claire this season too, with like perfect mascara. I'm like, if any girl that blonde has no eyelashes whatsoever, like I'm not even that blonde, and look here, guys, not an eyelash to be seen.
Screenshot that'll go up on
the baby, like, she keeps alluding to breastfeeding the baby, so that's fine. I was happy with that, but very lightweight nappies. I'm like, he's blowing those out. Like,
yep.
I want to see a lot more scenes of her just dangling his ass in the ocean, because, like, let's face it, that's what's happening. Every time there's a blowout, she's walking that kid down the beach and giving him a back and forward whoosh and letting the ocean do its work.
That's what they do in Survivor, yeah.
So there's that. But look, overall, I'm trying to let go of that, of their perfect hair, their perfect facial hair, their perfect everything. I'm trying to let that go. Sayid, for some reason, is the only one that's grown long nails. Didn't need it, Sayid. Like, if no one else is doing it, bro, like, the actor made a choice that I'm not interested in. Like, either you're all doing it or none of you are doing it.
So before we wrap up, we've got a couple of questions. Any big looming mysteries that you were sort of most curious about, things that are nagging you?
Okay, so obviously, like the biggest, well, there was two major themes, right, for the end of the season. So one is like they finally let the clock run down,
Yep.
and like Locke was wrong. He said it. We all heard it, which was fascinating because I genuinely thought, even though Locke's not my favorite, I kind of thought he was right and he was wrong. And we had that awful noise, that awful sound, but then everything sort of seemed to go back to normal. So I'm assuming, I don't know if we're going to have some kind of outcome of that, because I loved the bit where they looked on the log and they saw that last time it went down was the day that the plane crashed. Like,
one of the biggest mysteries solved.
So
yeah.
Fantastic, so fabulous. So like, has something happened this time? And yes, the countdown does mean something. So obviously that's extending that mystery, which I'm really into, because the whole season I was kind of like annoyed when Locke wanted to keep it going, and then annoyingly, on Locke's side when he wanted to stop it. And then obviously now we've lost our faves to the others. So I loved that Sayid got to look around the town with nobody there, so we know there's nothing behind the guarded hatch doors or those metal Dharma doors. So that was cool. We know that whatever they're doing has made Walt petrified. I think I'm reading between the lines maybe when fake Henry said, to Michael, if you go this way for this amount of time, you'll be rescued. Didn't say by who. So I'm assuming the others are just going to be there and they're going to just scoop him back up, because I doubt they were willing to give up whatever they're doing to children. I doubt they were willing to give up Walt. Also, Desmond told us we were in a snow globe. So I don't know. I don't know where he thinks he's going to go in that little boat. So yeah, like I'm just pumped to see what happens next. Like I'm so into this, guys. And I've actually started talking to other people at work and stuff who also didn't watch it. And so I'm like, well, now's the time. Get on board. So I'm finding my people and I'm trying to change them. I've found my people. I'm trying to convert them over. So a lot of pressure on you two, because now I'm like bringing other people on the journey, and if you guys are screwing me over, then we're going to come find you.
No. Is this one epic troll, or do we genuinely enjoy the show?
Exactly. Most epic troll of all time.
Yeah, wait and see. Any other questions, Dan, that you might have had? I think Fee's covered off mysteries and bold predictions. I feel like you've sort of...
I guess the only other one was there was the very, very final scene of the second season where we suddenly see two people get a signal of some kind. After the strange noise, after the light goes off, you got two people, and I can't remember exactly what they say, but they do say something like, that they detect a signal that came from the island.
That's
and
right.
they are
Two
presumably
fellows,
in the outside the world.
Yeah, they seem to be in the Arctic.
Oh yeah, the Russian guys or something. Oh
yeah.
my God,
Portuguese
I was so
speaking.
like, oh, Miss Scusi. So they could be from any number of places, because the Portuguese like to travel, if you know
That's
what I
right.
mean.
They do.
Wink, wink. I totally missed that. Yes. So they're sitting there playing chess, and then they get a message that says, what does it say? Like disruption noticed or something. And they were like, oh, fuck, did we miss it again? Right. So, okay. Does this mean that they were also looking for it however many months ago now we're talking about? I can't tell because no one's hair's grown. And then they ring. Wait, who did they ring? Don't tell me. Desmond's wife? Desmond's girlfriend?
In the photo.
Is that right?
Like it's yes, it is. Yes, yeah. Penny in the photo.
Oh, Penny! Hang on a fucking minute. Penny rings a bell. Does Penny ring a bell from the show or from people talking about the show 20 years ago? Have I heard the word Penny yet?
You have, because we learned a little bit about Desmond and his trip to and
I know I've met her, but I didn't know if I knew her name yet. Oh, her father! I thought they've finally thrown us an Australian. I'm like, that's fucking Alan Dale. And then I don't even think he was using an Australian accent.
We don't want to spoil anything, but you will never know the origins of that man as far as where he was born and where he was, because his accent goes everywhere. It's very
every time
English, Australian,
every time
American.
there's a new Australian, quote unquote Australian character, I'm like, what's this accent gonna be like? And then I saw it was Alan Dale. I was like, yes. And then I was like, yes. And I was like, wait, what? And then his daughter, that was straight up English, I presume. So like that didn't help me at all. But okay, Penny. That's her name's Penny.
Yeah.
Penny Whitmore. Okay.
Penny Whitmore can confirm that the name Penny Whitmore belongs to an English girl.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, the most English name I could think of if you asked me to come up with an English name.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, but that was kind of cute too. The fact that he has this book he's going to read as his last book, which is so risky. If there's going to be a book you're going to read as your last book, like it better be short. Like it better be
Dr.
tiny.
Zeus.
Exactly. All the places we will go. But yeah, and then she had the letter hidden in there. This whole thing could have been really different if he had have just like flicked through the book, like I don't know, from that prison where the accents were also very iffy. If this was an English podcast, I'm sure they'd have some stuff to say about those accents as well, but alas, 'tis not. Yeah, that was actually, good reminder. Thank you, Dan. Lucky you're here. Yeah, that was exciting.
All right, so, but I think that's it, right? I think I think the kind of the big looming mysteries coming out of season 2.
I think so. I don't think there's lots of other fun little things and things you learn. Like, I believe in this season, Charlie tries to become a photocopy salesman, and the unit, the name of the unit is like the 815 or whatever. Like, there's all this other insane stuff happening that is just so much more fun on like a third or a fourth rewatch. But yes, no, I think we've got all the main stuff.
I will say this about Charlie's story. As anybody who works in an industry with drug affected people will be able to tell you, I don't think this podcast, you have my back on this, but anybody listening who works with drug affected people know that we wish people were on heroin. Like this whole story about like, oh, the heroin. Remember the old days? Like, oh, watch out, someone will steal your VCR because they're on heroin. Oh no. Like we long for those days. Someone will eat your face off on GHB, like eat your actual face off. They will stab you with a pencil on ice. Like this whole throwing the heroin heroically into the ocean. I was like, oh, grow up, Charlie. Grow up. No, maybe just me, guys. Maybe just me. Heroin's bad. Heroin's bad. Don't do drugs for sure.
Yeah, no, a lot of people get fed up with Charlie in this season.
What's the worst?
Claire included.
He's going to have a nod. You know what I mean? He's going to go on the nod. And then when he threw it away, when like really it could have been used as a medicinal opiate, pissed me off as well, because I'm like, we've seen now and we know that essentially opiates can be super important when it comes to pain relief and possible I don't know if the point with Libby was he was going to kill her with that or whether it was just a pain relief, but essentially like we could get to the times when people need to be humanely killed, and that's what the Virgin Mary's there for. You know what I mean?
Well, you've brought us full circle, because that was probably the only other lingering, there's an airplane. Boone, unfortunately, dies at hands of that airplane. Where did it come from? We got ourselves a bit of an answer, right?
A bit, yeah, a confusing one. Yeah, but yeah, we definitely got an answer.
All right, I think it's time we left the hatch. We'll leave Fee alone to
she can go visit the others.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to go immediately.
Cross the line. Fee, thank you so much for talking to us. We cannot wait. It sounds like you will be watching season 3. It sounds like you've made the choice.
Probably
so that's
today.
Great. So good to hear.
I cannot wait. Thank you, guys. And I'd just like to do a shout out to my sponsor, Josie, who has paid for my Disney Plus login. So thanks to my sponsor.
Oh, thank you to all the sponsors Josie out there that are helping us. And thank you, Josie.
All right, bye, guys.
Thank you.
All that's left now to do, of course, is what is your own number seven as we continue to build out our top 10? I guess
Yep.
the first question is Man Behind the Curtain. Is it anywhere in your top 10, Dan?
No, no. Like I said, I loved it at the time. In retrospect,
Yeah.
I kind of find it a little bit muddled and inconsistent. And yeah, I think there are better Ben flashbacks. Loved it at the time. Just
Hmm.
nah, that doesn't hold up. Once you see the full picture, it's just like, wait a second. There's lots of gaps in that one.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that the episodes, there's lots of memorable episodes because information is revealed.
Mm,
But then when you go back after to multiple viewings, there are other episodes that just sort of have maybe pack more punch or they
yeah.
just sort of maybe hit on something. So yeah, for me, it's also not featured in my top 10. So
So what is your number seven then?
I will go first because number seven is an episode that we've actually covered already.
Okay,
And number seven for me is LaFleur. So I
there
think
you
this
go.
was it your number nine, Dan, or
Yes, I think so. Maybe my number 10.
number 10? So number seven for me is LaFleur. We did talk about that, so I won't spend too much time on it. But I mean, I just love this episode because
Yeah,
of where it starts, like the core group from where they are is this with Sawyer and Juliet and Miles, and they're just like a rabble of they're absolutely directionless. They've got nowhere,
yep,
they don't even know where to go. They don't even know what year it is. And then the end of the episode, you've got Sawyer and Juliet playing happy families. Miles is Sawyer's 2IC, and it just
yep,
works. Like like all these relationships where they're able to get to in the end of the episode, it all is all locked in. It all works. It all makes sense. And also, I just having talked about Roger Linus, who when he's given the job of workman complains, and they say,
yep,
"Hey, and when another position opens up, you can always come back and apply."
yep,
I love the idea of Sawyer has worked his way up over 3 years. He's now head of security. Meanwhile, Roger Linus is still sitting at home,
yep. Getting
drinking
drunk.
Dharma beers. Yeah. So I would take a spin-off series of just that 3 year time period, Dharma adventures,
Yep,
experiments gone wrong, head of security Sawyer. Yeah, Juliet saving babies, making it home in time for a pot roast.
yep.
One of the big questions I have though from this episode is from when Juliet and Sawyer stumble upon, I believe it's Amy and Paul, and they've killed Paul, and then
Mm,
our heroes are able to sort of find out what I don't know what they were planning on doing because we're supposed to believe that the others, whatever they are at this stage, are
the hostiles.
the hostiles. These are the people that are in the temple, right? Like
Yeah,
it just seemed very, very weird and very kind of creepy, like the way that they'd sort of surrounded Amy. And I was like, where's this headed? Or what, you
yeah.
know, it's very
I
sort of
mean,
strange to
yeah,
think about.
yeah. There's talk of some kind of truce that they've negotiated between you know the others, the Richard's others, and the Dharma Initiative.
Mm,
My kind of vibe is that the Dharma Initiative is kind of just locked into this tiny little corner of the island, which I guess probably isn't right because they've got stations all over the place. So I'm not
yeah,
quite
yeah,
sure how
yeah.
it all ties together, but maybe they're just allowed to go to very specific places, and if
Yeah.
they stray outside of that, then they get punished because I don't know.
I have no doubt that the Dharma Initiative people have overstepped their mark, right?
Mm,
Because they're the invaders, so to speak. They've come from the mainland with all of their wacky ideas and stuff. It just seemed very like you'd think that they would be the more peaceful,
yeah.
trying to resolvers of any kind of conflict. But hey,
And we do also have like this like LaFleur does take place after the flashbacks or most of the flashbacks we see in this current episode, The Man Behind the
mhm.
Curtain. So
Yeah.
we Ben has already been told to wait patiently, and so
Hmm. Hmm.
they've got a boy on the inside at least for now.
Yeah, that's true.
Uh,
They also demand Paul's body, which I think at the time I was like, again, such sort of like, I don't know, savagery or something
mm,
like what, why do they, like, I think it was to show that, okay, an eye for an eye, I
yeah,
guess. But
yeah,
then it made me think about. Surely they weren't going to bring him back to life, like chuck him in the
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, I'm not the thing that they throw Saeed into, that pool that they throw him into, they seem
Yeah.
surprised that Saeed comes back to life when he does that. I think
True. Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be more like I don't know, some kind of I don't know, maybe gather their memories. I'm not quite sure what the purpose of that pool is. I don't think
Mhm.
they think it brings people back to life, except in that one instance when it does.
Well,
That's all a bit hazy for me.
one fun theory that I read, which is sort of more to do with why they wanted the body, and that is that they need to keep track of every dead body on the island so that they know if the man in black has
That's
taken
an
a new
idea.
form.
Yeah.
So they need to sort of be across it all. So I thought that was super interesting. So, yeah, so Lafleur for me, which we talked about once before, but that is my number 7.
Right. Well, my number 7, and similarly to you, I won't go too much into this one because mine is There's No Place Like Home, which is what we're going to be talking about next time. So
Okay.
I'll save all discussion and thoughts on that until next week, I think.
There's no
That's
place
my
like
number
home.
7.
That's the season 4 finale.
The 3-part finale, yeah.
The 3-part finale. Can we just a quick preview what's going on at that time? We've
got a
got
freighter
freighter.
with a
That's
bomb on
right.
it.
Yes, that's it. Yes, and some antifreeze.
Yes. But meanwhile, on the
Uh,
island, we've got Kimi and his men running around trying to kill pretty much everybody on the
mhm.
island.
Yep.
So people don't really know where to go, whether they should head to the freighter that's about to explode or whether they should stay on the island that's about to be
Yep.
shot up by Kimi. And Locke himself has a crazy plan that he's going to move the island. So
Yes.
lots of crazy things going
Yeah,
on.
lots of crazy things. And the Oceanic 6 sort of, I guess that's being
The
sort of sewn up as
flashback,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or flash
Fascinating.
forward, I guess, to them being rescued and the immediate aftermath of that.
Yep. Oh, so good. Okay, well then, good teaser for next week. So we know that when we're covering our number 6, it's your number 7.
Yes. So we could skip that.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, that's it for this week. As far as our list goes, next week we are on to number 6, which is There's No Place Like Home, which we just
Yes.
talked about.
Yep. Another Wizard of Oz reference.
That's right. Back-to-back Wizard of Oz references.
Look forward to speaking to you then.
Thank you for listening to Lost Within Lost. If you have any feedback on anything you've heard in this episode, or even if you just want to share some of your own favourite Lost memories, you can send us a note via email or pneumatic tube, if that happens to be working. Just send it to lostwithinlostpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on the socials, both Twitter or X, whatever you prefer. Also on Blue Sky, at Lost Within Lost. Come and say hello, and thanks for listening.